Here we go again. Every time I have to introduce a new episode, I don't know what happens to me, but I just get so excited because I look at this as an opportunity, a very rare opportunity to get into a conversation with another man, whether he is single, married, divorced, or widowed. This is what the AMATYMA series in partnership with Bogart Radio is about, really unpacking candid and frank conversations with different men about different things. And I'm very excited about this brother of mine, whom I'm going to have a very interesting conversation with. His name is NKOSINATHI MOSHOANA. What's up, my brother?
What's going on?
Okay, did I pronounce your surname correct? Because now I'm very sensitive when it comes to my surname.
What's up again? I was actually, when you said it, I was like, wait, it's usually like Moshoane.
No, Moshoana.
Wait, Moshoane.
Kispedi.
So, can I listen to your stepfather? Mama remarried.
Right.
Surname ya time akekoza.
Okay. Right.
Mama remarried. My father passed away when I was much younger. So I know Witswer.
Shout out to you. Shout out to you. Welcome, my brother. So for those who don't know you and what you do, because I'm privileged enough to know exactly what you do, please can you introduce yourself for the sake of our listeners and our viewers on our channel?
Okay. The name is NKOSINATHI MOSHOANA. I am firstborn of 6. To a strong, beautiful mother, MOSHOANA. I am the Chief Operating Officer at a company called Prime Stars Youth Development Initiative, 20 years young. We're known for big projects like Take Your Girl Child to Work Day, career guidance, youth entrepreneurship at schools, and now What About the Boys that you're part of.
Right.
And I'm also a lover of football. My heart was broken. My mind was awesome.
You're definitely an Orlando Pirates fan. I can see you. You're an Orlando Pirates fan. Shout out to Orlando Pirates.
Don't do that.
Pirates.
Cozy for life. But yeah, it's a pleasure to be here, TT. I must say before we start, I need to thank you, man.
Yeah.
Wapush.
We have.
I know you're inspiring a lot of us young guys to push. And usually when we talk about inspiration, business work. But you've also, and I told you the other day about the work you're doing with your daughters. You're also showing us in terms of fatherhood, being present, and rewriting, a narrative for your children, the future. So I just wanted to say, for me as a young black guy, I'm watching you.
Yes.
There's millions of me watching you in our own different spaces, whether it's Wakasi or Rukholeza guy, and you're just showing us that it's possible. I want you to know that we're watching. I want you to know we're inspired.
Sure.
That's why I'm so blessed to come. I was like, I need to tell you.
Sure. Shout out to me.
Shout out.
I never get anyone actually giving me, props, and I appreciate it because it just means that the work that we do is quite intentional. I'm intentional about this AMATYMA Wellness Network. I'm very passionate about it because I was fortunate enough to have been raised by both parents who are still alive, thank God for that. But outside that, I was raised by both my grandparents on the maternal and paternal side.
Wow.
So when my great grandmother passed away, I was 23. That's how blessed I was.
Wow.
Granny girl. So she raised me and obviously my cousins and everyone else, and also raised another generation, which is my dad and all of them. So we were blessed to have that. So this AMATYMA Wellness Network is something that's very close to my heart. And these conversations that I have with various men, and I always tell people, AMATYMA is not only for fathers. No, it's also for uncles. Because we understand that fatherhood is not limited to biology. It cannot be. We were raised by a community of fathers. And Tatako next door, the school teacher, the coach, the principal, the priest. There were a lot of father figures around us, and we're trying to bring that back. And I'm glad that you mentioned What About the Boys, which is, is it a movement? Is it a network? How do we define What About the Boys?
It's a bit of all of the above. It started as a educational response to gender-based violence. Right. So the work that we do is in education. I'm very proud to say we've impacted over 1.5 million young people to date.
1.5 million
young people.
Young boys.
Township and rural communities. So that's boys and girls.
Oh, this is boys and girls.
In the journey.
Right.
And everything has been academically focused, math and science, entrepreneurship, and the likes. But when we got approached with gender-based violence as a challenge, it was a very complex decision to make because the topic is so difficult.
Extremely and sensitive.
Sensitive, and on many levels, right?
Yeah.
Cultural, traditional, financial, social,
Psychological.
Yeah. And how we got to What About the Boys was two things. One is your good friend Martin Sweet.
Right. Who's the current CEO, right?
Who's the current CEO.
Shout out to Martin. Let's give him his props.
Shout out to Sweetie. His good friends call him Sweetie.
Sweetie.
And he, through the journey of Take Your Girl Child, kept being asked, but what about the boys?
Yeah.
It's doing very well for the girls, but what about the boys?
Sure.
And then 3 years ago, we get approached to say, we've got this challenge of GBV. We're about to launch this new strategic plan on gender-based violence. There's these 6 pillars. What can you do?
Sure.
So then obviously we went around, did our research. I told a lot of people are making a lot of investments into the support of survivors post the act.
Right.
Which is right and which is important. But we felt Corona, as an education institution, we wouldn't be able to make much of a dent there.
Yeah.
Where we could make a dent is before the act.
Yeah.
Because if you think about the perpetrators, it's mostly us.
Correct.
It's mostly men.
Correct.
But no one is born abusive.
No one. Just like as much as no one is born a racist.
Correct.
Yeah.
It's how we socialize it. So in this case, the question was, what are we doing to raise these perpetrators?
Right.
And when we got to the crux of the issue with research, academics, etc., and obviously engaging boys and men themselves, was this challenge of the traditional expectations of manhood.
Yeah.
Titi can't cry. Titi can't.
No. Titi must wash the car.
Titi must wash the car.
Yeah. And Titi must do the garden.
Titi is a.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's how we define Titi as sort of a real man, if you will.
Sure.
But the definition of good men, real men, is what we felt our boys are currently missing.
Yeah, it's lacking.
Also lacking, and also what you spoke about was the lack of positive male role models.
Yeah.
Massive.
Yeah.
And also redefining what it means to be a good man today. You know, everything evolves in life. Why can't the definition of good man also evolve?
Correct.
So that was the whole objective. What About the Boys is let's look at redefining masculinity. Let's look at raising a different kind of generation of good men.
Right.
And that's how we got to raising a nation of good men.
Of good men. I love that.
That's how we got to that.
I use it a lot, by the way.
Yeah, please do.
I use it a lot because, I mean,
Please
you
do.
guys have established a blueprint around what it actually means. It's self-explanatory and it's quite encouraging. Just by nature, you know, raising a society of good men.
Just good men. Good men.
Sure.
So we started as an education initiative.
Right.
We created the film that you've seen.
Yes, yes.
And we love teaching through film. In fact, we had conversations this morning at another production house. There's potentially part 2.
Storytelling is the future, though.
Number 2 must come out. But storytelling is the future.
Yeah.
Because if you and I need to engage 10,000 boys on a difficult topic, you don't want to walk into a room and start pointing fingers.
No.
But if you play a film with a narrative that is
It will hit
relatable,
home.
it will hit home.
Yeah.
And how you know it's hit home is that Titi won't say, this is what I've learned. Titi will tell you about the character that most relates to him.
Because that's what it's about, relatability, right?
So in that process, we're then able to then start an educational process, the mentorship, etc., etc. So it started as an educational program, and it still is an educational initiative. We're writing content for the Department of Education. But I think what we've seen it become is a national social movement of people who listen, and then the challenge to them is you can do something.
Sure, play your part.
Even outside of money.
Correct.
I guess most people assume that when we come, you ask them for money. Yes, we need the money.
Of course.
I'll always take it. I'll always say to people, I won't say no.
Of course.
But for anyone listening today, you can walk into your community, find a young man, and just start a journey of walking a journey with him.
Sure.
So he knows that he's supported, he knows that he's good,
guidance.
he knows he's worthy.
Yeah.
And then another thing that's interesting, and then I'll say this quickly. So we've been talking to, last year we spoke to about 20,000, 30,000 boys.
Right. Across South Africa.
Across the country.
Right.
High school boys.
Okay.
Of them, I'd say about 60%. When you ask the question, who have you in the last month have been told by a male that they love you?
Sure.
20%.
Not surprised.
20%.
Not surprised.
And we specifically ask by a male.
You are very intentional about the question.
And then Babang will laugh like, what do you mean by
Yeah.
a male? Why must a male tell me love?
Yeah.
But then you begin unpacking. right?
The real issues.
So these are kind of a few of the things that really have driven us. I love this project. I really love this program. I love making a difference, and I believe, but I always try and instill in my staff. And what inspires me is the youth of 76.
Right.
The
courage, and the togetherness,
and the commitment to take South Africa forward.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
What I took from them was the energy and the courage and that chutzpah, as the Israelis say.
Sibiti. The audacity
to say we can change the country.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm hoping to reinstill in new generations going forward.
Correct.
Because when we're gone,
what's going to be
a lot of
left
people
of
are
it?
worried.
Yeah.
If you ask anyone today,
there's no baton that's being passed on.
No.
There's no succession plan when it comes to these boys.
No.
We don't have enough role models. I mean, Ronan Nerhola, we had so many role models to look up to, but Dr. Kumalo, Mofilma Singer, and I think sporting stars were easier to associate with because obviously they were in the public eye, and soccer being the #1 sport in the country, we were exposed to a lot of these kind of guys. But if you think about today's age, who do our boys look up to?
Correct.
Who's out there?
Who are we looking up to? So we ran an interesting thing, Gurikolo.
Yeah.
To see who our boys actually looking up to.
Right.
And when we ask them, okay, who do you want to become?
Yeah.
Right. It's always based on money.
Yeah.
Cars.
Right.
Women.
Sure.
Power. But people must fear me.
Sure.
Right. And strength. So
sure.
That's the definition of a successful man in terms of who we've been talking to across the spectrum.
Right.
Those 5 things are the key things.
Where are they taking these 5 things from? Because it starts somewhere, right?
So think about it this way: if Taima Leo, Malume Titi Hayo, where do you go looking? You go looking on the streets.
Yeah. You draw inspiration from Strate.
You go looking for Strate.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Or because our kids now are connected.
Right.
You go online.
Yeah, because information is out there.
You go online, and what does social media tell you a real man is?
Yeah.
Same thing.
Those things.
Lots of girls, lots of money.
Money, yeah.
Very respected, so power.
Sure.
Right. That's what they then define as what it means to be a good man.
Sure.
The problem is, here's the way the problem comes, Titi, that I got this enlightenment the other day, and that's why I love going to different spaces, listening to different people. One of the organizations we went to engage with said to a group of men, because a lot of them were saying, no, but I make sure, I don't expose the young boys to any bad behavior.
Right.
And one of the ladies asked, but how do you know which boys are watching you and when?
Yeah.
No,
you can't control that.
Can't control that.
Absolutely.
So this concept of unconscious role modeling blew my mind.
Sure.
Unconscious.
Because you don't know who's watching.
So maybe you tell us, okay, Titi, when the cameras come on, make sure.
Yeah, but when the cameras are off.
When the cameras are off, you're different, and you don't know that there's some boys out there watching you, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of men in the country today don't even realize it. That's why whenever I talk about the topic, I say to any man I bump into anywhere,
sure,
there's someone watching you.
Always. 24/7.
Just be aware that there's a young man watching you, and whatever you are modeling,
they're taking from you.
There's someone who looks up to you and is taking it from you.
Sure.
So now what I always say to MJITA, wherever we are, whether they think it's serious or not, whether you have a kid or not, because I don't have a kid, but I raise my sisters, and my brothers, they're like my children, and all the kids who come to the projects, like Barabaka,
Sure, of course.
I always say to them, just make sure you are showing something positive
at all times.
But I guess the issue with that is then, if Titi needs to, if he realizes that there's something not positive, he needs to work on it.
Absolutely.
And that's where the problem
and
comes.
Confront it,
Confrontation of self. Why what?
Yeah, we avoid it.
Why what?
No, we avoid it. You know that we avoid the truth about ourselves. We avoid the fact that, you've got anger issues, and those anger issues are driven by the fact that that's how you were raised. You are angry with how your parents raised you, and you never addressed it. You never had a topic, you never had a conversation. I mean, I asked my dad. So my dad was the first episode that we put up on this platform, and I did that deliberately.
I respect your time, man.
Yeah, I respect that man.
I respect your time,
and I respect the fact that he was honest. I asked him, why were you so hard on me, dude? Like, respectfully so. Why were you so hard on me? And his simple answer was, to be honest with you, I didn't know any better. I did not know any better. That's how I was raised, and I thought that was the blueprint. So we are privileged now because we are spoiled for choice and options, and how I raise my daughters is really out of those choices now. Now
Let me
I
ask you
choose.
something.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, go for
on
it.
that point.
Yeah.
Okay. I always have this conversation with friends and with my partner. So we decided. So we're the first in our families to go into university. The
Right.
first in our families to sort of extend ourselves beyond the history.
Sure.
And we made a decision, individually and collectively, that we will be the beginning of generational wealth. One way or another.
Yeah, we're breaking those curses.
One way or another must find a way.
No maganja.
We made that decision. Now, I then said, if you then juxtapose that to raising a family,
Yeah.
what I think a lot of gents maybe don't get the chance to or don't get the enlightenment to, I don't know. I've had the privilege of watching other people raise kids.
Sure.
And the question I always ask is, if Titi was raised in this way, at which point did he decide he's going to change that?
Sure.
And what informed changing it? What informed what you choose? So if you've got a catalog of ways to raise kids, what informs your choice? And I'm going to take category B,
Sure.
D, and F, and that's how I'm going to raise my kids.
Sure.
And then you move with that, right?
Right.
Because I've had a bit of a challenge with that. Because you're raised how you're raised,
Yeah.
but life changes as you get older.
Correct.
So if you don't take on how you were raised, you think you're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
But if you don't evolve, you almost mis-equip your
And you
children.
get stuck.
You almost ill-equip, rather. That's the right
Sure.
word. Ill-equip your children.
Correct.
How did you make that decision? How did you make that distinction? How did you decide, this is the kind of father I want to be, this is the kind of family I want to raise, this is the kind of culture in the family I want to create, and this is the kind of legacy I want to leave? Because that's something you need to sit on your own and decide.
Yeah. It's a decision.
Right?
It's a decision.
And then you commit to it.
Yeah.
And that's been a challenge for me. I mean, a lot of gents I've spoken to also just like, I'm just trying to be there.
They figure it out as they go.
How did you figure it out? That's
So-
been tough for me personally.
So I'll tell you one thing. I was very clear about the fact that I would not raise my daughters the way I was raised, especially looking at the type of challenges we have. First of all, these days, let's just start there.
Do you really think so?
Would hope that most parents don't do it, right? But we know things happen behind closed doors.
Sure.
So for me, it was a case of being conscious about creating an open platform for my kids, because I never had that when I was growing up. It was unheard of that Rona as Bana would sit with the elders in a lounge.
True.
Bana ba kwa
True.
in the other room, but Baba khulu ba mo.
Correct.
And this whole notion that but Baba khulu tshwantse ba je pele before bana.
Correct.
I've never understood that. I've never.
I
It doesn't make sense to me. So I started consciously wanting to do things differently and things that would make sense to me and my family. So first of all, when there's a gathering at my house, the kids need to eat first. The kids need to eat first.
Wow.
Because once the kids are sorted, the adults are born. How do you serve yourself as an adult and then serve the kids last? I've never understood.
They say it's respect.
Yeah.
We're raised like that.
Yeah, but the problem is that we never were given an opportunity to question those things. Because not that clap your campaign.
I was about to say, for me, when you were raised, questioning would be disrespect.
Yeah, it's disrespect. Yeah, no, so
you know what I'm saying?
We better get
You understand? Whereas the other demographic
yes,
in our country
yes,
is actually raised to question,
yes,
raised to challenge,
yes,
raised to have their own view.
yes, which they're entitled to, by the way.
Very much.
Yeah, but it's how you manage it. So I'll give you an example. So last week we were having an argument with my daughters, and it was a heated argument. And one of my firstborn said to me, "No, Dada, you're lying." And I stopped it. And I said, "My girl, you never say an elderly person or someone older than you, even your age, you actually don't utter those words. You can say you're misinformed. You can say, no, I don't agree with you, but don't say someone is lying." And she said, "Why, Dada?" I said, "Because it's rude. It's rude to say someone is lying, my girl. You can have a difference of opinion, you can agree to disagree with someone, but never say someone is lying, because it's also a defense mechanism that most people use in any argument." And guess what? She got it. You know why? It's how I approached it.
How you approached it.
Instead of saying, "Don't you dare."
Yeah.
Because there's an issue with parents where we think, because I'm the parent, I'm always right and I'm entitled to say, but you forget that there's a human being on the other side, called your child, called your nephew, called your niece. You are raising your nephews and your nieces as the time. Like I said, fatherhood is not limited to biology. But who is NKOSINAThi? We haven't even tapped into that. But I worried about the boys. But who is this man? Who is this man that we're talking to? Like, how was your upbringing? How's your relationship with your dad?
Man. Okay, so let's go Kagiso, ne?
Right.
West Rand.
Oh, okay. Kako Leratong. Oh, okay.
In fact, I was born for Leratong.
Oh, really? Leratong is the equivalent of Para and Soweto.
Sure.
For Kagiso. Yeah. Shout out to Leratong.
Hey, man. They've given birth to many superstars, man. We still trying.
Like who? Give me the superstars of Kagiso.
Hey, why would I?
Who else is the
That flag is flying high for us.
Who else? I don't know any other.
We're gonna try. I'll try with the next. I'll try with the other one. I'll try. So, I was born in 1990, 25th of July. So I'm turning 34 this year. Thank God.
Yes, sir.
By God's grace. And when I was born, my mom and my dad were high school lovebirds.
Right.
My dad, Christopher Mtutu Kozana,
right.
Mama, MOSHOANA, Motswana.
Right.
And they have me. I'm their firstborn. They are madly in love, and unfortunately, things don't work out between them. And when I turn about, I think I was about 5. My dad passes.
Right.
Mysterious, not sure, but he passes.
And you remember that?
By that stage, the one thing I always remember, because it's difficult to remember a lot for me. But the one thing I remember is Getwere pamphlet ya funeral. Yeah.
Sure.
That's the one thing I remember, and I think I was with his friend and old lady.
Yeah.
But I have this distinct. It's faint, but I
it's
know
there.
to go funeraling, and I'm holding his pamphlet.
Right.
Funeral. Yeah, I remember that. I don't remember much with him.
Okay.
But there's an interesting thing about how I reconnected to the family. So anyway, once they break up, I then stay le Makriza.
Okay.
Mom's mom.
Right.
Ne? Mamza.
It's always the case.
Hey.
Right.
Ne? So the whole community knew Mamza and Amnales Paza, and she taught me like everything I know about love and family and unity and strength and value and dignity. What it means for Namun,
sure.
Man, right?
Sure.
Even though I had gaps, I'm still feeling.
Yeah.
But I grew up with my grandmother. She was my mom, and I used to call my mom by her name.
Isn't that weird?
It's very weird. So whenever I look back, I laugh and I talk to my old lady, because she left obviously to go and find better for us.
Right.
She didn't leave.
So she left you with
she left with my
grandmother. Yeah.
And at the time, obviously, you don't get it,
Yeah.
but she went to build a life for us. I stayed with my grand until I was about 14.
Yeah.
13, 14, I think, around there. And then I moved with my mom in Midrand.
Sure.
I've always been attracted to academics.
Okay.
So I excelled quite well at school. I went to Midrand High.
Yeah.
In Midrand, pushed hard.
Yeah.
And thank God, so ended up as like a head boy.
Sure.
Shout
out. Hey, head boys. Hey, it's not easy to be a head boy, Papa.
I had a best friend in school, Wanyana,
right,
who was really smart, and we ended up competing academically.
Nice.
But if you tally, the net result is that she got more wins than me.
Right.
But chasing her helped me improve my standards.
It got you to that level.
Exactly.
Yeah. And
that then pushed me through school. I played soccer, I played cricket, I did debating.
Yeah.
I was a prefect. Zamile rugby.
Yeah. Oh, buddy, you ran away. Just like I did.
Zamile rugby. Coach, I don't know.
Is that for everyone?
You lead.
Yeah.
We can put you on the wings. You can. Yeah. One day we played with some other school.
No more.
Nix.
Never again.
Nix. I was like,
you stuck to your public speaking and debating.
Let me go debate. Get a ball. Go scheme. So we did that. School was incredible.
Right.
I also was a dancer for some time. It was crazy.
Sure.
In school.
Sure.
But the dance industry was very different back then.
Yeah.
It was massive back then.
Yeah,
You know,
it was huge.
it was huge back then. Different competitions.
Yeah.
Were involved in, but it was beautiful because it exposed so much to me.
Correct.
To a point where I even brought some international dancers over. I was like in grade 12 or something. But it was
Jeez.
amazing.
You're a star scout. Zama zama.
So I leave school, get a few distinctions, get
Listen
into
to this man. A few distinctions.
get,
A few distinctions.
get into this, get into university, blah blah blah. I had to.
Why is this thing still going on, bro?
I think it was
Oh,
very exciting.
oh, gee, I'm like, why can't this thing
But
stop?
thank you. I appreciate them as well. So I got into school, got to study corporate finance. I ended up changing direction, having to drop out of school because my mom got divorced.
Right.
And that's when the hustle started for NKOSINATI.
Sure.
I bartended, I waited, I handed out flyers,
Sure.
I did concerts for people, started businesses.
Sure.
I even entered SAB Kickstart. I won one of the SAB Kickstart Business Awards.
Shout
It
out.
really got me going. And then I got into marketing, but my heart has always been with youth.
Sure.
And the journey took me through all of that into an international marketing agency. I did very well there, and then 9 years ago, on the 15th of March, I joined a company called Prime Stars,
Sure. As a COO.
and the rest was history.
And
I joined as a project intern.
as a project intern, and now 9
That's
years
fine.
later,
9 years later,
you are the COO.
yeah. One more step.
I know. One more step. One more step to go. No pressure. We are getting there. So before I let you go, my brother, what is the one thing? What is the one thing that you can say to a boy out there who's growing up right now and there's no father figure present? There's no inspiration around them. What do you say to a boy like that who's just like, I'm just waking up every day and hoping and praying that life will unfold itself?
Somehow turn around.
Yeah, because you deal a lot with boys, and I know you encounter a lot of these boys.
A lot of them.
What kind of conversations do you have with these boys?
I see myself in a lot of them.
Sure.
So I told a quick version of my story, but
Yeah.
for 6 years of my journey between leaving school and finding sort of a rhythm in work,
Yeah.
I went through a period of depression.
Sure.
Couldn't find work. I tried businesses, got into massive debt trying to help my family,
Sure.
and things were absolute crap. Right, I lost a hell of a lot of.
How old are you?
It was between 21 and 27, 21
Sure.
and 26.
Sure.
I was trying to figure things out, but things were bad.
Yeah.
And when you're in the badness, it's hard to see beyond.
Sure.
But I made a commitment in that period because it was people, it was grace that got me through. And I
Yeah.
always said to myself that once I get through this, I'll never say no to anyone who needs help. Right?
Sure.
I think that's
Because
why
you know what it's like
I know what
to
it's
need
like.
help.
So for boys and anyone who finds themselves in a place of where they're lost,
Yeah.
I always try and encourage them, "Hore, there is another side.
Yeah.
Even if you can't see it."
Yeah.
When I was in the pits of
You'd never believe this.
I would
this silver line.
never believe that one day I'd be with Titimba
Sure.
recording a podcast talking about this place. Nix.
Right.
And what I always try and get them to, so there's this interesting saying that I heard from the office. If only our future hindsight could be our current foresight,
Sure.
would be a lot more successful. Because now you'll be able to connect to your future self.
Yeah.
So for young men, I'd always say to them, that future self of yours is very possible.
Yeah.
Currently we feel disconnected from them. So TT sees himself as a 70-year-old man.
Yeah.
Him and you today don't feel like the same person.
Yeah.
It feels like another version
disconnected,
of you. You're
yeah.
disconnected.
Yeah.
So your actions today don't get you there. So for young men, one, I want to say there is hope.
Yeah.
There really is hope. There's support. There's people out there who love you even if you don't know them.
Sure.
Now I love these boys, even though I don't know
Sure.
them. But
Sure.
hug, everything like
Absolutely. Because that hug could be what they needed.
boys must know they're loved. They must know they're supported. They must know that there is a tomorrow for them. There is a tomorrow for them.
Definitely.
Right? But they have to fight for it. Because through your behavior,
Yeah.
making the right decisions. And it's not easy,
Yeah.
but you have to fight for it.
Sure.
So as much as we support and give, Luena, you need to play your part.
Absolutely.
And that's what I'd say to them. I'd also invite them to connect to us, man.
Yeah.
Connect to us, wherever you are, whatever you need, connect to us. I don't want to
How do they connect to you guys?
The easiest way is online, social
Yeah.
media. Prime Stars SA,
Yeah.
Instagram Prime Stars SA, X, which is formerly Twitter Prime Stars SA.
Yeah.
I always connect to different people who
Sure.
come to me and say, hey, Kishotaga, or I don't have shoes, or I was thinking of studying. If there's one thing we can do is collectively make a difference.
Correct.
So
Intentionally so.
That's very important, TT. And also it's important that more guys in your position
Yeah.
get involved.
Absolutely.
And stop assuming that there's someone else who will solve it.
Yeah.
The more of us who are solving problems, the quicker we'll solve them.
Absolutely.
I definitely got to challenge men, successful black men, all black men in
Sure.
South Africa. Not well. Actually, I only speak from this because I'm speaking from my environment.
Correct.
But my beneficiaries are widespread. So let me say all men.
Yeah.
I encourage all men to take part in one way, shape, or form in making a difference in the difference of one young man's life. Think about yourself at age 14, 15, 16, what you were lacking and hoping you would get. There's someone out there who's in the exact same place where you are, and they can benefit from the lessons you've navigated in your life.
Sure.
You know what?
That's a challenge.
That's a
To
challenge.
all men.
That's a challenge.
My brother, thank you for coming. Do you know how quickly this time went? And
Titi.
there's just so much that we need to unpack. And I always say to my guests that you're definitely going to come back.
Please.
I think what you guys are doing as Prime Stars, more specifically as What About the Boys, is something that I subscribe to personally. I mean, I was emceeing the launch last year, and I did it.
They're still asking me, who was that handsome guy?
Of course they're gonna ask.
asking
Of course
me.
they're gonna ask. And the reason I subscribe to it is because I was once a boy, and I had men that I looked up to, and now I'm that man that some boy is looking up to, and it's important for us to carry it forward and make sure that we set a good example for these boys, and also show them the reality of life, that it's not always rosy. It's tough out there, but you also gotta be tough. And being tough also requires you to be soft and be intuitive.
That's right.
And this thing that boys don't cry, I don't believe in that.
Unbelievable.
Boys do cry. And there's also a plea to a lot of corporates out there. You know, we are encouraged by your support towards a lot of women related programs, girl child related programs, but please don't leave the boy child out of it. Please don't leave the man behind, because those guys, they need all the help we can get.
Absolutely.
My brother, thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Titi.
That's it.
I can talk to you forever, man.
That's why you have to come back.
Yeah.
You must do a
This is
picture.
an important thing.
Yeah,
Like,
bruh.
guys, you don't discover what you guys are doing. Like,